Hey guys, so we are studying the Tractate of Makkot. We had an intro last time, a short intro, and we actually started the first Mishnah and a few words from the Gemara. I'll just summarize where we're at. It's not far in, so we'll catch up. Basically, conspiring witnesses are two witnesses who came and gave testimony, which is a false one, and not just gave a testimony that's a false one. It's not that they saw it it's not that they saw the event and they said something wrong about it. They were not even there. And after those two conspiring witnesses are giving the testimony, two other witnesses are coming and saying that those two witnesses were with us somewhere else, so they couldn't have seen that event. So those are called conspiring witnesses. What is the punishment for conspiring witnesses? Whatever they wanted to inflict on the victim and the defendant, that's what they get. So if based on their testimony, the person has to pay a fine, so they pay the fine. If based on their testimony the person is going to get lashes, so they get lashes. If based on their testimony the person is going to be killed, so they get killed. For example, if somebody comes and say that two people are coming and saying that so-and-so violated the Shabbos, which is punishable by death. He violated the Shabbos. And that person, and then they were found to be conspiring witnesses. They are going to take the place of this poor dude that was saved in the electric chair or whatever the method of death is. So that is the basic law of conspiring.
You said last time the window is kind of small of that retribution for being the main witnesses, right? The window is between the actual verdict and the actual
execution, correct?
Punishment.
Right. Yeah. There is a very small window, and it needs to be very qualified. You know, there are a lot of conditions that needs to be met. But basically, is what you're saying. If they found to be conspiring witnesses before the verdict, they go off free. If they found to be conspiring witnesses after the person the punishment was executed, either death or lashes or fine, whatever that is, they're also getting scot-free. So it's a very not common, you know. There is no, I don't know, a law. A body of law, not that I know, not that I'm a lawyer, but it's what I'm told, that there is no such specific law in common bodies of law that are being used right nowadays in the secular world. So our Mishnah is starting with exceptions. Okay, it's listing two exceptions of conspiring witnesses that are caught to be, they were caught with the lie, but they are not receiving the punishment that the victim would have been getting. Instead, they're getting lashes. Why aren't they getting the punishment of the individual? Because we mentioned the first. We will learn the second type soon. But the first type of a person, the first situation is when the conspiring witnesses are saying that so and so married so and so, who is a Cohen, Mr. Cohen, was married a divorced woman, and therefore the children are not their lineage is damaged, and they cannot have the privileges of a Kohen. So what happens is they are not losing their privileges because we will see soon why, but especially if they're Israeli, they don't have privileges of a Kohen to begin with. But even if the conspiring witnesses are Kohanim, they are not receiving that the punishment, and we'll see in a second why. And instead they're getting lashes. Okay, so that's the basic situation that we learned. The basic type of type of a person that we learned about last time. So now the Gemara is talking about how do we know it? Where do we know it from? So how do we know that someone who is a conspiring witness that is testifying that a Kohen did something wrong by marrying a divorced woman, and she was not divorced, or she was a widow, or she was not married altogether? How do we learn that that they're not getting any punishment? That they're not getting that punishment of being damaged, the lineage is getting damaged. So, so it says, let's just read this first. Amar Rab Yeshua ben Levi, Amar Rab Shimon ben Lakish. So Rab Yeshua ben Levi said, the reason, by the way, in parentheses, Rab Yeshua ben Levi said it in the name of Rab Shimon ben Lakish, and it's in parentheses because Rab Yeshua ben Levi was much older than Rab Shimon ben Lakish. So there are those who say that it's an error here, that those words, it's not in the name of Rab Shimon ben Lakish. Yehuda ben Levi was could have been a grandfather of Rab Shimon ben Lakish. The Amar Kra, ועשיתם לו כאשר זמם לו ולא לזרעו, כאשר זמם לו ולא לזרעו. So let's just, in order to really understand it, let's just hop for a second and examine the actual words in the Torah that are teaching us about conspiring witnesses. Okay? So it starts here, it's in Deuteronomy 19:17. It says, if two parties are coming to dispute in front of a judge, and in front of God, again in front of the judges. And the judges are investigating, and they're realizing that there is a false testimony here. And there are various ways of learning that this false testimony is not just a regular false testimony, it's a conspiring false testimony, which we'll see later. So it says, V'asitem lo, what is their punishment? You should punish him with what he was conspiring to do to his brother. Kasher zamam la'asot le'achiv, and you should wipe out the evil from your midst. So these are the psukim, these are the verses that are discussing the halacha of conspiring witnesses. So let's go back to the Gemara. So what does the Gemara say? It says, V'asitem lo, you should do to him what he conspired to do to his brother. To him and not to his kids. So when someone is giving a testimony that a Kohen was married a divorced woman, and therefore their children, they're okay, they stay the same, they're not losing, they're not becoming halal. Someone who was born from this kind of a marriage, this kind of a union of a Kohen and a divorced woman, it's called halal. So they're not becoming halal, right? They did something wrong, but they were born properly. But their children and the children's of their grandchildren, etc., they are improper. They're not. Their lineage is damaged. So the conspiring witness has to receive the punishment that he inflicted on the person that he's testifying against, the Kohen or the divorced woman, not the children. He's not testifying against the children. Some of them future children. That's not what he's doing. So therefore, the punishment is actually to the children, unfortunately. So he cannot receive it because that's not what he meant to do to the person that he was testifying against. So then the Gemara is asking, so what do you mean? He damaged the children, so give him the punishment of the children. You know, that's what he caused. That's the promises. So give him v'lifsu l'didei v'lo lifsu l'zarei. So make him damaged, that he will receive that kind of status, and his children should not be punished because his children didn't do anything wrong, right? So the Gemara is saying you cannot do that because ba'inan ka'asher zamam la'asot v'leika. Okay? If we are going to give him a reduced sentence, meaning that he is going to be damaged, but his children are not going to be damaged because he didn't marry a divorced woman, he's not a Kohen even. So then you're giving him a reduced sentence because his children are not going to be punished. And that's not what the Torah said. The Torah says that you have to give him exactly what he conspired to do, and not a reduced sentence. So that's how, according to Rabbi Shua ben Levi, this is how we know that someone who is conspiring is by testifying to damage someone's children, a Kohen that was married a divorced woman, he's not going to get he cannot get punished with the same punishment that he meant to inflict on the victim. That is, and we learned it from the pasuk. Okay, now Bar Pdat is saying there is another opinion that we learn it in a different way, and here we go in a little bit of a real Gemara like. There is a way of learning, there is a way of studying Gemara and understanding one thing from the other using a fortiori argument. Okay? What's a fortiori argument? It's called Kal Vachomer. So how does it work? If you find, the way it works usually, that if you find the same type of a situation in an easier case, definitely in the more severe case. For example, you give a fine to someone who went through a red light with a car. So you give him a fine. Now, if someone, God forbid, went through a red light and hit someone, that's much more severe. So if someone, so you cannot say that someone who just crossed a red light without hitting someone is getting punished, but someone who crossed a red light and hit someone not going to get punished, because that's the common fortiori argument. So the same thing we're trying to learn here. What are we saying? Uma mechalel. אינו מתחלל, הבא לחלל ולא חילל, אינו דין שלא יתחלל. What are we saying here? The Kohen that actually married the divorced woman, their children are damaged, right? Are halal. But what happened to the Kohen himself? The Kohen himself is not becoming halal because he was born properly. So he was causing the actual problem by marrying a divorced woman, and he's not getting, nothing happened to him. So that's case number one. So there is case much easier than that, which it's the conspiring witnesses. Conspiring witnesses meant to cause the damage, but they didn't because they were caught. So the person who actually caused the damage, the Kohen, is not getting punished by becoming damaged himself. Definitely the conspiring witness who tried to cause the damage but actually didn't cause the damage, for sure he should not be getting that punishment and become damaged himself. That is how Bar Pedat is saying the reasoning why in such a case a conspiring witness is not getting that punishment that he meant to inflict. So Matkif la Ravina. So Ravina says this kind of a fortiori argument cannot work in edim zomemim, in conspiring witnesses altogether. Why? Because if you do that, you are basically nullifying the whole conspiring witnesses law. The whole law cannot work. Why? Because it says that you can say it basically on almost every single conspiring witness. How so? take for example a conspiring witness which we mentioned before that comes and says that so-and-so violated the Shabbos. If someone violated the Shabbos, they have to be stoned, skila, right? So now a conspiring witness that tried to cause somebody to be stoned is so a conspiring witnesses that actually succeeded in getting someone into trouble and getting them stoned, meaning the actual punishment of the court, the stoning, actually occurred. So that conspiring witness is not being stoned. Remember, we said that there is a time limit. If the punishment was executed by the courts, the conspiring witnesses is not receiving the punishment. So the Gemara is saying in that case, every single conspiring witness's punishment can be nullified if you're using this fortiori argument. Because what you're saying, if a conspired witness succeeded, okay, and he's not getting the punishment of stoning, for sure a conspiring witness that was caught before the stoning, so he didn't cause the damage, for sure he shouldn't get the stoning. If you're using that logic of that kind of an argument, so any conspiring witnesses will never get any punishment because he didn't cause the damage yet, so he shouldn't get the punishment, right? So therefore, but we do see that the Torah does have this law of conspiring witnesses, and the Torah does say that they should get their punishment even though they did not actually cause the damage, meaning the stoning didn't happen, but they are going to be stoned. So therefore, we say, so the same thing when a conspiring witness is trying to inflict damage on a kohen and a grusha, they should get this damage. Based on this argument, they should be damaged themselves. But that is not what we are. So we cannot learn from this fortiori argument that the conspiring witnesses is getting lashes instead of the damaged status. So we're going back and saying that the real reason is what we said originally. The real reason is what the pasuk said, what the verse is saying. Kasher zamam la'asot lo, that he needs to get the exact punishment as that he tried to inflict. And here in this situation he cannot, because his son cannot be punished for his conspiring deeds. And so therefore, because of the pasuk, we are not punishing him with that punishment. Okay, so that is one situation where a conspiring witness does not get the punishment that he tried to inflict. Instead, he is getting a reduced sentence or a different sentence of lashes. We good? Any questions?
There's something disturbing, really. This argument is pretty good, right? To causing damage, a person gets stoned, and they go free.
Right.
Doesn't look like justice to me.
That's
right?
true. That's why I'm saying this is one of it's a difficult law to follow. It's a very difficult law to follow because it's not really rational. It's one of those laws that's not, that you can very easily find. That's what he's saying. It really doesn't make sense that that's what it is. But it's really clearly the case. That's why there are a lot of, and we'll see later, there are a lot of conditions, and that makes it almost impossible for conspiring witnesses to actually be caught and punished. And, it's, you have a situation if they run away, if the conspiring witnesses run away, and they go to another court and they say we made a mistake and we lied, they're also getting off the hook. So it's like a very similar to din of ben sorer or more, that a kid,
right,
that it just doesn't happen,
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? All right. So the second exception to conspiring witnesses is written in the Mishnah, and that is if conspiring witnesses are saying that meidim anu beish ploni shu chayav galut, that we are testifying that so and so has to go to exile. What does it mean to go to exile? They're basically testifying that this person killed someone by mistake. Okay, they come and say, we saw that Mr. X climbed the ladder and he fell on Mr. Y and killed Mr. Y by mistake. He didn't mean to kill him. He just fell. Now, then two other witnesses are coming and saying, you were not there. You were in a totally different country when this happened with us. So you couldn't have seen this happen. So they meant, what did they mean to do? They meant to cause Mr. X to be punished with exile. Because what happens, there are two people who kill. One killed on purpose and one killed not on purpose. The person who killed on purpose is getting killed. That's, an eye for an eye type of thing. But a person who killed by mistake, they are being punished with exile. They have to run to a sheltered city, to a Ir Miklat, and live over there in that city, away from his family and away from his hometown, until the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, dies, and then they can be released. Now, if they don't do it, the heirs of the victim, of Mr. Y, that died, can retaliate and kill Mr. X. Okay. So that's the story. So if two people are coming and are conspiring to say that Mr. X killed Mr. Y by mistake, and therefore he needs to be exiled, and then they discover that they're not, that they didn't see that they were actually conspiring, so they don't have to go to exile instead. That's what the Mishnah is saying. So how do we know that? So again, we have the same construct. We have one rabbi who is finding a pasuk to support this argument, and there is another rabbi who is trying to use fortiori argument to support it, and then we are debunking that argument and assuming, going back to the first one, that the reason is the actual pasuk. So what is the pasuk? The pasuk says as follows: let's look at the pasuk. It's always good when you see a pasuk in the Gemara, in the Gemara, to actually go see what happens. Okay, to actually see the pasuk itself. Okay, so he's talking about that you have to create set aside 3 cities to be sheltered cities, okay? And those cities should be in a specific distance, whatever, and it's set aside to be the place, where a murderer, that someone who killed someone by mistake can run away and live and hide and flee into and be there. How do you say Ir Miklat in English? Do you remember? Moishe, you should know. You don't know. All right.
It's a city of
refuge. City of refuge. City of refuge. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. All right. So what? So v'zeh dvar rotzech. So the verse is saying as follows: v'zeh dvar rotzech asher enu sama. So this is the case of manslaughter of a person that may flee. Someone who killed his friend by mistake, unwittingly, okay? And he doesn't have any bones, no animosity between them before. And he came to what happened. How did it happen? It was he came to chop the trees in this forest, and the ox flew out of his hand, and it killed the person. Instead of hitting the tree, he hit the person and killed him. So what is the punishment? Hu yanus el achad ha'arim ha'aleh. He is going to flee to one of those cities of refuge. He. Okay? So there is an extra word here. He. Because it says, in Hebrew you don't need the he, because you can include the he within the word flee. So he should flee, you can say it in one word in Hebrew. In English you say it in two words, but in Hebrew you can say it yanus. You don't need the word who. This word here, who, is not necessary. So the Gemara in our case is learning that he is going, only the person that it happened to is the one that will flee to the refuge cities, but not someone else who deserve it, like the conspiring witnesses, but so they're not going to do it because it's that's the decree of the of that verse. Okay, so that is one opinion of how we learn that law. Now we have Rabbi Yochanan is saying that we're learning it from a fortiori argument, from Bekal V'chomer. Rabbi Yochanan Omer, how are we fortiori inference? Okay, what is how does it work? Uma hu she'asa ma'aseh b'mezid eno goleh, and shelo asu ma'aseh b'mezid eno din shelo iglu. There is a difference between someone who is doing a sin by hand, or someone who is talking. Okay, when someone is talking, it's called enmas. There is no deed here. There is just a speech. There is just words, and words are less punishable in Jewish law than deeds. So, what is the argument here? The argument is very simple. Someone who meant to kill, he is a murderer par excellence. He meant to kill someone. He is not going to exile, and he did something wrong. So those conspiring witnesses who also meant to kill, they meant to cause. They not didn't mean to kill. They meant to cause the victim to flee has to flee to a refuge city. So of course they are not going to flee to a refuge city. So let's say it again, the argument. If the murderer who is meant to kill doesn't run to a refuge city, those witnesses who meant for the guy to, and they didn't succeed, for sure should not, there was no action here, for sure should not be punished by running to another city, so to a refuge city. So the Gemara is saying it's not a good argument, because the logic can work the other way around. He said the other way around. Why aren't we forcing the murderer to run to a refuge city? Because what is the whole point of refuge city? The whole point of refuge city is that a person is being inoculated, is being cleared, he is atoned. That's used as an atonement. Okay, the suffering that a person has by being uprooted from his place and running away to another city and living there for who knows how long until the high priest is dead, the Kohen Gadol is dead. So that is coming to atone for his misdeeds, that by mistake, but it's a misdeed. He killed the person by mistake. So it's coming to atone to it. Now, this is if someone did it not intentionally. If someone did it intentionally, you don't give him this atonement option. Why? Because he did it intentionally. He doesn't deserve this way out. He doesn't deserve the way to be expunged, right? So he says, if someone who is really meant to kill, you don't send to the refuge city because you don't want him to atone. But these conspiring witnesses, they were caught before this happened, so they didn't actually do it. So give them atonement by sending them to a refuge city. They are much less than a killer, right? So that means that this argument doesn't work, because if you're comparing the conspiring witnesses to a killer, intentional killer, they are. You can look at it in both ways. So therefore, we are retreating and saying this second opinion of Rabbi Yochanan does not work. We cannot learn this halakha, this law from this argument. What we learn, what we have to go back, we're learning it from the actual pasuk, and the pasuk says that someone who killed unintentionally, he is the one that has to run to a refuge city, and not someone else, meaning not the conspiring witnesses. Okay, next. So now we know that in those two cases, conspiring witnesses that were trying to say that the Kohen married a divorced woman, and conspiring witnesses that meant to say that a person killed someone unintentionally. Those two not getting the punishment, they're getting lashes, right? So we learned why they're not getting the original punishment. But how do we know that they get lashes? We know that they're not getting one, but how do we know they get the other? So now we have a whole different discussion about that. How do we know that they are getting lashes? So Amar Ula. So Ula starts saying, and it's a very common thing here, that he just says 4 words and they right away, hey, they don't let him finish what he's saying, and they tell him, you didn't say something right. Amar Ula, remez le'edim zomimim min Torah. There is a hint for conspiring witnesses from the Torah. That's the words that he's saying. So right away the Gemara is saying, hey, what are you saying? It says it's not a hint in the Torah. It says it's clear. It's not just something that you need to learn, by way of hinting. It's a clear thing. Remez edim zomimim. It says clearly that that's what you need to do. Vasitim lo kasher zamar. So the Gemara is saying, no, relax. It's not that. What Ula was saying, Ela remez le'edim zomimim shelokim min haTorah. Ula was trying to say, how do we know that certain conspiring witnesses are not getting the punishment that is written clearly in the Torah, that they have to get the punishment that they meant to inflict, but in a couple of cases they're getting lashes, meaning that there is a secondary, a fallback punishment that they can get if they cannot get the original punishment. How do we know it? It says that there is a hint. What is the hint? So the hint is from Dvarim, from Deuteronomy. Let's just go there and look at it, and then we'll read it inside. Okay? In Deuteronomy, there is a discussion, and let's read it together. Okay? The discussion about basic disagreement between people. Ki yeh riv ben anashim, when there is a dispute between men, between two people. V'nikshu lamishpat, and they came in front of the court. And the court and the judges rendered the judgment. V'shaftu. V'hitzdiku et tzaddik, and the translation here is horrible. It's not what it says. And the pious person, they sided with the pious person, and they basically wrong and with the evil person. They stated that the evil person is wrong. Okay, that's v'hitzdiku et tzaddik v'hirshiu et harasha. The pious person, they accentuate the fact that he's pious, and the evil man, the one that is wrong, is they stated that he's wrong. That's the first. So that's the situation. So what happens? So if the guilty one is to be hit, is to be flogged, is to be receiving lashes, so then the magistrate, the actual judge, is pushing him, lying down, making him lie down on the ground, and he's giving him the lashes as much as the guilty, as much as is warranted. Okay? So now, let's first of all just some background information. Okay? The background information is as follows. Okay? The most of the punishments that are listed in the Torah that are physical punishments are lashes. Most of them. Okay? There are some situations that a person gets death penalty, some situations that they get other fines, but most of them, they're lashes. Now, those lashes are usually for things that were done, sins that were done between a person and God, not between a person and a person. There are a few situations where if a man hurts another man, what is an example? If someone cursed his fellow man in the name of God, they get lashes. Or if someone somehow took a collateral that was necessary for that was used to feed someone that is sick, whatever, it's some far out sins that a person, when they sin between a person and a person, they're getting lashes. Most of the lashes are being given to people who are doing something against God. Okay. Now, so with that in mind, the verses that we have here are the verses that are teaching us about the someone getting lashes. About the whole laws of lashes is from here. Okay, so let's examine again the first verse here because it's very strange. It said, "If there will be a fight between men," so it's right away not between men and God; it's between men and men, and they came to the court. And it says that the judges are saying that the person who's right is right and the person who's wrong is wrong, right? That's what it seems to be saying. So it seems because somebody is right and another person is wrong, you give lashes to the wrong person. That doesn't make sense because we just said that the law is that most of the disagreements between men and men is not ending up in lashes. So what is he saying here? It cannot be that this is the meaning of the pasuk. So the rabbis are saying that the meaning of the pasuk, and we'll see it inside in a second, is as follows. The rabbis are saying that the meaning of the pasuk is as follows. That when we say that they declared the right one right and the wrong one wrong, is not the judges. It's the witnesses. It's the conspiring witnesses. And how does it work? What does it say? It says, if conspiring witnesses came and gave false testimony and caused someone who is pious, somebody who is right, to look wrong, and then another set of witnesses came and they set the record straight, and they said that the right one is right and the wrong one is wrong, then they get lashes. So the whole din of lashes, the whole discussion on lashes is actually discussing the story of conspiring witnesses that are unable to receive the original punishment of what they meant to inflict. Instead, they're getting lashes, as we see in this pasuk. Is that clear, or we're good? We're good. So the Gemara is asking a simple question: why do you need a special pasuk to tell you that story? You can get it from another pasuk. Simply v'tipukle milotane. V'tipukle milotane. What does it mean v'tipukle milotane? The story is as follows. Okay, there is a pasuk lo ta'ane bere'atcha et shaker, that one shall not be testifying false testimony. That's a pasuk in Shmot. We're going to get to it very soon, in a few parshas. We're going to get to it. Lo ta'ane bere'atcha et shaker. One shall not be giving a false testimony. Now, how does so? One second. Okay. Now, what happens is, we said that what is the default punishment for a regular sin? Any sin that doesn't say specifically that one should suffer death or whatever, they get lashes. So you should learn from lo ta'aneh, from this simple prohibition to give a false testimony. You should learn that they should get lashes, right? This is simple. Why do you need to learn like this from what it said, from that pasuk? It's too far. You have a simpler way of doing it. So the Gemara is saying you couldn't have done it. Why? Because a false testimony, a regular false testimony, is called lav she'en bo ma'aseh. This is a sin. It's a negative action that the person is doing, but it's not an action. It's an actionless action. It's something that a person is saying with their mouth. Okay? So there is a whole discussion whether the moving of the mouth is action or not action. But the law is that it's not really action. A false testimony is not action. So, and therefore, you wouldn't, by default, you would not think that from this statement that one shall not give a false testimony, you should not assume that they get lashes. You would assume that they don't get lashes because there is no action involved. They're just talking. So therefore, you needed the other verse, and the other verse is very specific and tells you in a situation of a conspiring witnesses, when they came and they tried to turn things upside down, and then another set of witnesses came and set the record straight, that the person who is right and the person who is wrong, then they're getting lashes. So that is a very strong pasuk that can tell us that whenever the regular punishment of a conspiring witnesses, which is you get what you intended to inflict, does not work, the fallback punishment is going to be lashes. Okay? And that is where I think we should stop, because it's time and we're getting into a whole different discussion. So, questions?
Thank you.
Comments?
Thank you, bro.
All right. Thank you.